Hello guys, welcome back. We are here with another interesting video. In this video we are going to discuss about the New Age movement. In 1908, Annie Besant, 1847-1933, sister of Sir Walter Besant, a Mason, an outspoken atheist who was converted to Satanism by Pike, a member of the Fabian Society, who became president of the Theosophical Society, whose goal was to gain access to the universal spiritual reality beyond material existence, after the death of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, 1831-1891, who became a Satanist in 1856 and founded the society in New York in 1875, and Charles W. Ledbetter, former Anglican priest, a Theosophist, and 33rd-degree Mason, discovered Jiddu Krishnamurti, who they believed to be the reincarnation of the being that inhabited Jesus, Krishna, and Buddha. They founded the Order of the Star to spread his word. Those who listened to him speak at a Star of the East convocation in 1911 said he spoke in the first person as a god. Others witnessed a great coronet of brilliant, shimmering blue appearing above his head. Many knelt to worship him as the world teacher and the guiding spirit of the universe. A biographer later wrote, although he was only a little boy when she brought him from India to London, and although he hardly moved and did not speak when introduced at a party at Charing Cross, those who were present professed to feel a strange vibration coming from him. Years later this same vibration caused thousands to fall at his feet in homage, accepting him as their messiah, when he addressed a huge international conference of Theosophists in Holland. A visitor to the conference afterwards testified, when he spoke, it was awe-inspiring. I am not easily moved, but there was something there impalpable, but resistless apostrophe. However, when he came to America in 1926, his occult powers failed him, and his spirit guides left him. The New York Times reported him to be a shy, badly frightened, nice-looking Hindu. His speaking engagements were cancelled, and he later denied that he was the Christ, and renounced the Theosophical Society. Because America, at that time, was still, for the most part, a Christian, Bible-believing nation, the spirit that inhabited Jiddu had to leave him. He retired in 1929, broke all connections with organized philosophy, and became a popular mystic writer and speaker. In 1969, he established the Krishnamurti Foundation of America to publish and distribute his teachings. He said that his only concern was to set men absolutely, unconditionally free. He died in 1986. However, his library and archives are continuing to feed a new generation his brand of New Age teaching. He was listed as a contributing editor of the Bruce Lee magazine, the official publication and voice of the June Fan Jeet Kune du Nucleus. Besant was later replaced with Alice Bailey, a witch, and an occult writer who, back in the 1940s, was the first to use the term New Age. Collaborating with other occultists, she claimed to be working out mankind's spiritual destiny from a remote Himalayan retreat, and that her writings were telepathically sent to her by the Tibetan Juhal Kul, who said that there was going to be a new world government and a new world religion. In 1922, Bailey established the Lucifer Publishing Company of New York to print and distribute their satanic doctrine. The name was later changed to the Lucas Publishing Company years later. Their president, Perry Coles, tried to downplay the sinister overtones, by saying that Lucas comes from the Latin word lux, which means of light, and the word is used in the context of being bringers of light, and doesn't have anything to do with Satanism. Yet they are one of the biggest publishers of occult material in the country. Lucas Publishing, the Arcane School, and World Goodwill, founded in 1933 to promote Luciferian views, is composed of individuals who are referred to as the New Group of World Servers, are run under the auspices of the Lucas Trust Company, which had been located at 866 United Nations Plaza in New York City, Suite 566 and 567, but later relocated to 120 Wall Street, 24th floor, in New York. They seem to be the coordinating force behind the New Age movement. Some of the people who have served on their board: Robert McNamara, Donald Regan, Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, Paul Volcker, and George Shultz. Bailey wrote a few books detailing the New Age plan and said that the New World Order will be the reappearance of the Christ. In her externalization of the hierarchy, she said that the New Age will be in full bloom after the global crisis occurs and the world turns to Christ for leadership. She felt that the term Christ could be applied to any person who reached an elevated state of consciousness, thereby achieving a divine status. Only a few souls found enough favor with the spiritual hierarchy of the reincarnated ancient masters to be chosen to return to Earth as an avatar. New Agers claimed that Muhammad, Buddha, and Jesus were avatars, and therefore each was a Christ. Alice Bailey has said, the Christ who will return will not be like the Christ who, apparently, departed. He will not be a man of sorrows, he will not be a silent, pensive figure. He will be the enunciator of spiritual statements which will not necessitate interpretation, and give rise to misinterpretation, because he will be present to indicate the true meaning. He recognizes and loves those who are not Christian but who retain allegiance to their founders, the Buddha, Muhammad, and others. He cares not what the faith is, if the objective is love of God and of humanity. If men look for the Christ who left his disciples centuries ago, they will fail to recognize the Christ who is in the process of returning. Bailey said that her hidden masters told her that 1975 was the time to begin open propagation of their plans. Although Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought transcendental meditation to America, taught that the New Age began in 1975 when he inaugurated the Age of Enlightenment. The 1980 book The Aquarian Conspiracy, Personal and Social Transformation in the 1980s by Marilyn Ferguson, published by J.P. Tarcher Incorporated in Los Angeles, California, ignited the New Age movement into one of the fastest growing religions today. Ferguson said that the New Age movement had triggered the most rapid cultural realignment in history, and that the movement had grown to such an extent that thousands of groups were now a part of the network, including Human Potential Movement, New Thought, Consciousness Movement, Holistic Movement, Whole Earth, and Unity. Some of their front groups include Association for Humanistic Psychology, the Holistic Health Organizing Committee, Association for World Organization, Political Science Committee of the Institute for the New Age, Institute for the Study of Conscious Evolution, Naropa Institute, Hunger Project, Planetary Citizens, Planetary Initiative for the World We Choose, and the Movement for a New Society. This handbook for action by the New Age movement was introduced at the World Congress on Futurology in Toronto, Canada, to be used as a blueprint to begin a new campaign for recruitment into the occult. The December 1986 issue of the Omega Letter reported that the New Age movement was the fastest growing religion in America. People are being drawn into the New Age movement because of its propaganda regarding social injustices, environmental concerns, and ending world hunger. Some of the well-known people who were involved: singer John Denver, former astronaut Edgar Mitchell, former University of Notre Dame President Theodore Hesburgh, former German Chancellor Willy Brandt, science fiction writer Isaac Asimov, physicist Fritjof Capra, and Megatrends author John Naisbitt. California New Age minister and writer Terry Cole Whitaker told Magical Blend magazine, "I feel that we are right on the edge and we are going to pop into a new dimension. Everybody senses it." The central theme of the New Age movement is the emergence of a new planetary consciousness. They hope to usher in the age of Aquarius, and their goal is a one-world religion. It is nothing more than a revival of the ancient Babylonian religion, a dressed-up version of witchcraft, a politically correct form of witchcraft, which they hope to introduce to every aspect of society. The spirit guides they refer to are demons. They are working to integrate New Age teaching into religion, and in the process, they are trying to discredit Christianity. For instance, New Agers have latched onto the lost years of Jesus, the period between his boyhood and the beginning of his ministry, which are omitted from the Bible. Kevin Ryerson, the demon channeler for actress Shirley MacLaine, says that his spirit guides told him that the man Jesus studied for 18 years in India before he returned to Jerusalem. He was studying the teachings of Buddha and became an adept yogi himself. Elizabeth Clare Prophet, in her book The Lost Years of Jesus, said that she discovered, through documents she found in the Himalayas, that when Jesus was a youth, he joined a caravan to the east, and studied under wise men who taught him mysticism. Edgar Cayce's demon guides also gave him similar revelations. He claimed that Jesus traveled through Egypt, India and Persia, and it was in Persia that he learned from the mystery religion teachers. New Age leaders claim this information was censored in the 6th century by the Church. A book called Jesus Lived in India by Holger Kirsten has gone as far as to say that after the resurrection of Jesus, he returned to India, and that his tomb in Kashmir can still be seen today. Ruth Montgomery was told by her spirit guides, "We are as much God is part of us. Each of us is God. Together we are God." Corinne and Theodore Healeen, authors of many New Age books, including New Age Bible Interpretation, said that with the dawning of a new age, an evil Satan who doesn't exist and will vanish from man's memory. Christians unfit for the New Age will also cease to exist, being wiped off the earth by the New Age Christ. New Ager Ken Ayers was quoted in Parade magazine, August 9, 1987, as saying, "Those who cannot be enlightened will not be permitted to dwell in this world. They will be sent to some equally appropriate place to work their way to understanding." In the New Age book Reflections on the Christ by David Spangler, director of the UN Planetary Initiative, and a leader in the Planetary Citizens, he wrote that Lucifer is an agent of God's love. And that Christ is the same force as Lucifer. He also wrote, Lucifer prepares man for the experience of Christhood. He is the great initiator. Lucifer works within each of us to bring us to wholeness. As we move into a new age, each of us in some way is brought to that point which I term the Luciferic initiation, the particular doorway through which the individual must pass if he is to come fully into the presence of his light and his wholeness. It is one that many people now, and in the days ahead, will be facing, for it is an initiation into the new age. He also made a connection to one world government when he wrote, No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. New Agers refer to the writings of a 14th century Gnostic group, called Luciferians, who worshipped him, believing him to be the brother of God, and taught that he was wrongly cast out of heaven, and would someday be vindicated. He was praised as the bright and morning star. Lola Davis, author of Toward a World Religion for the New Age, identified the New Age Christ as Lord Maitreya, who has been labeled as an avatar and a world teacher. She said he will bring new revelations and further guidance for establishing the world religion. She also said that the World Council of Churches has the potential to serve as a source of unity among the diversity of religions. On April 25, 1982, the Terra Center, headquartered in London and N. Hollywood, California, a New Age group led by Benjamin Creme, ran a full-page ad in 20 major papers around the world proclaiming that the New Age Messiah, Lord Maitreya, was alive and ready to institute their plan, which included the installation of a new world government and a new world religion under Maitreya. The ad said, "Since July 1977, the Christ has been emerging as a spokesman for a group or community in a well-known modern country." It promised that the Christ would appear within the next 2 months and that his message will be heard inwardly, telepathically, by all people in their own language. From that time, with his help, we will build a new world. A similar ad ran 5 years later, on January 12, 1987, in USA Today, under the headline "The Christ is in the World," describing Lord Maitreya as a great world teacher for people of every religion and no religion. He never did appear, and according to Creme, Maitreya was living in a Hindu Pakistani community in southeast London, and attending Oxford University, where he is studying the sacred writings of the world's major religions. When Creme spoke in Detroit on November 4, 1981, he was asked if he had met Maitreya, and he said, "No, I've never met the Christ, but I've met the human body he is inhabiting several times, but never as the Christ." According to the Huntington House book New Age Messiah identified by Troy Lawrence, this man was identified as Rahmat Ahmad, and is the great-great-grandson of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who was born in the 1800s in India, and claimed that he was the Messiah, sent to unite the entire world in a new world religion. It was revealed that he was born in February 1962 in Rabwa, Pakistan, then went to England in July 1977, in preparation for his role. Lord Maitreya never did appear, and as it turns out, in 1991, Lawrence, real name, Derek Evanson, was exposed as a fraud, and now his expose has been pretty much ignored. Just as the birth of Jesus was prophesied by many Old Testament prophets, New Agers believe that the birth of the new Christ was prophesied by Jean Dixon. Shortly before sunrise on February 5, 1962, Dixon had an unusual experience. For several months, astrologers had predicted that an earth-shaking event on that day, because of a rare conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn and Venus in the constellation of Pisces. A similar conjunction which occurred nearly 2,000 years ago is believed by some to explain the bright star in the east at the time of the birth of Jesus. As she looked outside, she didn't see any trees, or the street, just a blue sky, above a barren desert. In the sky, the sun was shining brighter than she had ever seen. Coming from the sun in every direction were brilliant rays which seemed to be drawing the earth toward it like a magnet. Stepping out of the brightness of the sun's rays, hand in hand was a pharaoh, later identified as Pharaoh Amenhotep, and Queen Nefertiti. In her arms was a baby in ragged soiled clothing. The eyes of the child were all-knowing, the all-seeing eye on the Illuminati seal, full of wisdom and knowledge. To one side of the queen, Dixon could see a pyramid, the Illuminati. The couple came before her, as if to offer the baby to the world. Within the sun, Joseph was guiding the tableau like a puppeteer pulling strings. Bible teacher David Ebaugh has linked Genesis 41:14-36, dealing with Joseph's interpretations of the Pharaoh's dreams, with the book of Revelation. In addition, Joseph was known as the dreamer and Quat. Rays of light burst forth from the baby, blending with those of the sun, obliterating the Pharaoh from her sight. Off to the left, Dixon saw Queen Nefertiti walking away, thousands of miles into the past. She paused beside a large brown water jug, and as she stooped to cup her hands and drink, she was stabbed in the back by a dagger. She died and vanished. The baby, meanwhile, had grown to manhood, and a small cross formed above him, expanding until it dripped over the earth in every direction. At the same time, people of every race, religion, and color, all knelt and lifted their arms in worship, and were all as one. Dixon interpreted this to mean that there was a child born somewhere in the Middle East, shortly after February 5, 1962, of humble peasant origin, possibly a direct descendant of Queen Nefertiti. Her husband, Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, known as the Great Heretic King, had changed his name to Akhenaten, which means, he in whom Aten is satisfied, and built a city, Tel El Amarna, protected by impregnable cliffs, to worship the sun god Aten. In 1375 BC, they had 7 daughters, but no sons. After his death, the priests of Amun took over. Tutankhaten, who married the 3rd daughter, became pharaoh at the age of 12, and changed his name to Tutankhamun, the image of Amun, destroying all traces of Atonism, and returning to the worship of earlier gods. If the child isn't a direct descendant, the son could be a symbol of the one world religion that is to come. When the Illuminati was established, their secret code utilized the planetary symbol for the sun to signify the order. Dixon said, "There is no doubt in my mind that the child is the actual person of the Antichrist, the one who will deceive the world in Satan's name." Robert Mueller, a New Ager, is a former Assistant Secretary General of the UN, and a member of the Board of Planetary Citizens. He suggested that religions should create common world religious institutions, and display the UN flag in all houses of worship. He has even called for a universal Bible to be written. He said, "We must move as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader." He also said, "My great personal dream is to get a tremendous alliance between all major religions and the UN." He said in 1982, "The human person and planetary citizenship must be given absolute priority over national citizenship." Some of Mueller's views were molded by the 3rd UN Secretary General U Thant, a Buddhist and a one-worlder. In Thant's book The New Genesis, he calls for the New Age to be ushered in by the year 2000. Mueller dedicated one of his books to Dag Hammarskjöld, the 2nd UN Secretary General, who he referred to as his spiritual master. Dag was behind the renovating of the UN Meditation Room, and even helped raise funds for it. John D. Rockefeller Jr. gave $5,000 for it. In the book Spiritual Politics, Changing the World from the Inside, New Agers Corinne McLaughlin and Gordon Davidson referred to it as a place of quiet stillness and has been referred to as one of the holiest of holies on the planet. The meditation room is shaped like a pyramid without a capstone, sometimes described as a trapezoid, which Satanists believe is the shape that is the most conducive for the manifestation of demonic manifestation. The room is illuminated only from a single beam of light from the ceiling upon a black stone altar. Hammarskjöld said that the altar was dedicated to the God whom man worships under many names and in many forms. On one of the walls is a mural which contains occult symbolism, and at its center is the all-seeing eye of the Illuminati. David Meyer, a former witch, said about the room, "I stood in the meditation room, which contains Satan's altar. The black stone block has a certain kind of magnetism about it, and when I walked into the room with my praying wife, I could sense the intense presence of an evil force beyond description. This is where the world leaders and Illuminati masterminds go to meditate, which is why it is open to the public only in the mornings. Once the sun moves from ante-meridian to post-meridian, only the adept in witchcraft are allowed into that room, for that is witchcraft doctrine regarding meditation. As the sun gives way to waning light and the female power of the moon goddess, the meditation room at the UN becomes off-limits to what they call the profane apostrophe. New Ager William Irwin Thompson said in 1991, "We have a new spirituality, what has been called the New Age movement. The planetization of the esoteric has been going on for some time. The independent sovereign state, with the sovereign individual in his private property, are over just as the Christian fundamentalist days are about to be over. We are fast becoming a planetary culture." He also said, "The new spirituality does not reject the earlier patterns of the great universal religions. Priest and church will not disappear, they will not be forced out of existence in the New Age, they will be absorbed into the existence of the New Age." We can see New Age philosophy being advocated on television, and in the movies. Even though there are New Age bookstores, New Age material has become so popular that it is showing up in regular stores. New Age meditation techniques have been secretly introduced into our public schools as a means of handling problem kid. Subtly, the New Age message is entering the mainstream church. The 1970 song by former Beatle member, George Harrison, "My Sweet Lord," from the album All Things Must Pass, which was, in fact, a rip-off of the Chiffons song He's So Fine, was accepted by many churches as a Christian song, when in fact it was a song of dedication to Krishna, and contained a chant to summon spirits, demons. He had been involved with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and later converted to Hinduism. I believe that the legal and societal headway gained in recognizing same-sex relationships has to do with the fact that New Age philosophy has weakened, watered down, and worn out the message of the church. Robert Mueller said, while speaking at the Parliament of World Religions, "Do not worry if not all the religions will join the United Religions Organization. Many nations did not join the UN at its beginning, but later regretted it and made every effort to join. It was the same with the European community, and it will be the case with the world's religions, because whoever stays out or aloof will sooner or later regret it." Dick Sutphin, a New Age advocate, said that fundamentalism is extremely dangerous to the future of this planet and potential for a New Age. Barbara Marx Hubbard, executive director of the World Future Society, has said in regard to Christians, no worldly peace can prevail until the self-centered members of the planetary body either change or die. This act is as horrible as killing a cancer cell. It must be done for the sake of the future of the whole. There have always been defective seeds. In the past they were permitted to die a natural death and apos. We, the elders, have been patiently waiting until the very last moment before the quantum transformation, to take action to cut out this corrupted and corrupting element in the body of humanity. It is like watching a cancer grow. Something must be done before the whole body is destroyed. And quote. The facts speak for themselves here. The New Age movement is a facade whose purpose is to deceive. John Randolph Price, a New Age leader, said that there are more than 500 million New Age advocates on the planet at this time, working among various religious groups. And quote. It is likely that the New Age movement will be the vehicle that will dilute the major religions enough, so that they will be able to find enough common ground to join together in a new world religion.